Thank
Okay.
you.
All right. Thank you very much. So we are looking at contract management and contract administration in civil engineering projects. So as an objective, so you want to understand the key concepts of contract management and administration. You want to identify roles and responsibilities of engineers in managing contracts, and then highlight practical strategies for effective implementation. So by definition, we got to know that contract management is the overall process of planning, negotiating, executing, and closing contracts effectively. And contract administration is the day to day activities of ensuring the contract terms are met during project execution. So we stated that by definition, then contract administration will fall under contract management. Why does contract administration and management matter in civil engineering? We've already discussed that it ensures legal compliance, it prevents cost overruns and delays, it improves project quality and delivery, and then it also enhances stakeholder communication and accountability. Then we looked at the types of construction contracts. So we have the lump sum or the fixed price, we have the unit price contract, we have the cost price contract, we have design build, we have EPC, and then turnkey project. So moving on, we are trying to look at the roles of civil engineers in contract administration and then contract management. So as civil engineers, we review design specifications and contract documents. We also provide technical input during negotiation. We also monitor contractor performance. We ensure compliance with scope, quality, and safety. And then we resolve disputes or variations. So by reviewing design specs and contract documents, the designs are normally done by us. So after the contract has been awarded and everything, we even before they are awarded, we review the designs, we review the specifications, we check the contract documents to make sure that everything is in accordance with what we actually want to produce. And then we provide technical input during negotiations. If there are negotiations with contractors, with consultants, or whatever, we come in and then we give our technical input to make sure that both client and contractor, everybody is okay. Then we also monitor contractor performance. So while the project is going on, we give reports. We ensure that the contractor is going according to schedule as he has provided. We also make sure that whatever construction is going on, it is in accordance with what we, the engineers, actually want the outcome to be. And then we ensure compliance with scope, quality, and safety. By doing the above, we ensure that the scope of the contract is followed, quality and safety is also followed. So whichever quality materials we want to use, we make sure that that is used. The outcome, the quality is also met. And then when there are disputes, we also come in. When there are variations, we also come in to make sure that we resolve all disputes and then all variations. So let's look at the contract life cycle. So we have the pre-contract stage, we have the contract execution stage, and then we have the post-contract stage. So for the pre-contract stage, we have the procurement planning, we have tendering and bid evaluation, and then the contract award. So this forms part of the pre-contract stage. And then for the contract execution stage, we have mobilization and site management. We have payment certifications. We have change orders and claims management. And then when we come to the post-contract stage, final account settlement and then close out, and then any lessons that are also learned on the project, we also document them. So this is what we do as civil engineers who are managing projects. So let's look at the key contract documents that we need to be abreast ourselves with. So we have the conditions of contract, which could be FIDIC or JCT or etc. Any other conditions of contract that may be specified for the specific contract. We have the scope of work or the specifications. We have the drawings. We have the bill of quantities. We have the payment terms and timelines. And then we have the dispute resolution procedures. So this is the key contract documents that as engineers, as civil engineers, we also need to be abreast with. Let's look at some common administrative tasks for a civil engineer. So on your day-to-day running of a project, you need to ensure that your site is, you need to work out on your site instructions and variations. You need to produce progress reports. You need to have a request for information. You need to keep records of your minutes of all your meetings. And then you also have to give non-compliance notices and then also check contractor evaluations. So these are some of the common contract administration tasks that as a civil engineer, you need to also carry out. Now, let's look at some challenges and risk areas when it comes to contract administration and then management. Scope creep and unclear specs. So when we don't have clear specifications, these are issues that can, or risk areas or challenges that can come in a project. Delays in approvals or payments. These can also be challenges and then risk areas. If a contractor is not getting money or his payments or certificates are not being honored, then it's going to cause delays in the project. And then as a project manager or as a construction manager, you need to be worried about some of these things. Poor documentation. If you don't document your, if you don't do poor documentation, anytime there is a dispute or any legal action, you wouldn't have any documents to back you, and then that will also go against you. Dispute over variations. If you don't keep proper records of even site requests for information, you don't keep proper records of any changes or variations that are made at the site, then there are always going to be disputes over variations. For example, if you're a consultant, the contractor say this, and then you are also saying that, then the client will be at a loss as to who to believe. But if you have clear documents or documentations of whatever happens on site, you can produce them, and then you will not have any of these challenges. Misinterpretation of clauses. If there are clauses in the contract that are not very clear, then this can be a challenge or a risk area in project management or administration. So what are some of the things we can do to ensure that we have best practices when it comes to contract administration and their management? We need to ensure that all communication is documented in writing. Where necessary, both parties need to sign so that at least it becomes a record. Anytime there's a dispute, then we can bring it out. Hey, this is what you said, this is what I also said, this is what you wanted, and then we are all clear. We need to maintain clear records. That is our site diaries, our change logs, all these things must be clear records that have to be kept at the site. And then anytime there's an issue, we can always cross-check from them. We need to conduct regular reviews and progress meetings. Regular reviews and progress meetings. The more progress meetings we have, the client, the consultant, the contractor, you can all put your heads together. And then if there is any impending issue, you can always have a way out of it, and then that to become a very big issue that will have to delay or cause issues in the project. Now, we need to follow dispute resolution steps that are outlined in the contract. Every contract, we come up with dispute resolution steps. So whatever steps we adopt at the beginning of the contract, we need to make sure that we follow them anytime there is a dispute we need to resolve. And then we need to understand the legal framework guiding contracts in your region. Every region has a legal framework. So whether you are working in Ghana or wherever you are working, you need to understand that legal framework that guides the contracts in the region so that you can always do what is right in that respect. Bringing the presentation to an end, I would like us to reflect on these words, that effective contract management is not just paperwork, it is protecting the project, the team, and the public interest. So I would like to thank all of us and then bring my presentation here so that we can get the discussion rolling. If anybody has any comment, any question, any suggestion, or anything that can help all of us to learn what contract administration and then management or entails, anything we can add, the person can do so that we all learn. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
So if you want to say something, you can raise your hand, and then we give you the floor so that you can contribute to the discussion. Hello? Yeah, hello.
Hello.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I have a brief person. Can I go ahead?
Please go ahead.
Okay, all right. So thanks for the presentation. Um, I just want to find out in
I don't
your
know
list.
if it's me, but
I
your line seems
noticed
to be
that they
breaking. And if
appeared
you can
as.
also make...
Hello,
Hello?
please. Is it
Your line
any
was
better?
breaking. Yeah, from my
Okay.
end, I
Is
think
it
I
is
can
it,
hear
is
you.
it okay? Is it better now?
Yeah, I can hear you from my end.
It's better now.
So
Yes,
you start
please.
with your name so that we all know
Okay,
who...
okay. I was saying that, what is the main difference between an EPC or a turnkey and the design and build? Because I find them to be probably about the same. Is there really a main, like, what the main difference is between a design and build contract and then the EPC contract?
Okay. So
Yeah.
the question for all of us, at the beginning, I think I made it clear that I do not see myself as a body of knowledge in this regard. We are all discussing. So anybody on the floor can give us a hand before I come in.
All right. EPC means engineering, procurement, and construction. So the team that takes over this portion will design. So your engineering is everything that has to do with a project. If you are building, you are involved in a bit of the design, and then on site you can also interpret what you have, right? And then procurement, you are solely responsible for procuring all the there are some projects where you have free issue material where the client procures whatever you need, the material you require, and then supplies it to the contractor. Where you take on an EPC as a contractor, you would also be responsible for sourcing the material and then procuring it and then supplying it during the construction phase. C is for construction, and most contractors do construct. When you say the design and build, with the design as a contractor, if you decide to design, that is fine. We all understand what the design is. And then the building is the construction phase as well. So with this, there is no procurement. The client might be responsible for supplying you all the components, both imported and whatever it is that you require for the construction. So the difference with EPC too, it's as you are responsible for even sometimes the commissioning as well. But the design and build is strictly, okay, you've designed it, you've constructed it. There might be other components like procurement, commissioning that other teams other than yourself might be responsible for. That's how I understand it.
I think that is very clear. If you would have any other person to throw more light on it.
I have a follow-up question. This is Engineer Michael Jackson.
Okay, Wako.
Yeah, Cobra Charlie. Thanks for the presentation. And with the explanation that was given on the design build and the EPC, I think when it comes to contract management and administration, one of the things that we'll be paying attention it has to do with the responsibilities of the parties involved. With this explanation for design build and EPC, what are some of the responsibilities of the contractor, the client, and I don't know if this one will have a consultant, but if there are some what are the clear lines between the responsibilities of the contractor and the client for these two type of contracts, the EPC and the design build?
Okay.
Can I talk
Thank you very
again?
much. Sure, please do.
All right. So I find EPC more risky. Okay. It has been the downfall of most contractors. So with EPC, you've taken on almost everything. You've become the engineer. So, on certain projects, we have the consultancy section, where there is a consultant on site. They have designed, they've supplied it to a contractor who isn't responsible for any engineering or the design work. So let's say if you take on an EPC contract and then you finish with the design and there is any issue at the end of the commissioning phase, the contractor is going to be solely responsible. And it's very pricey. Okay. Procurement, the same. Here in Ghana, I believe maybe even as engineers, we must be trained to understand that sometimes we must plan earlier, even sometimes as early as maybe a year in advance, because there are certain components that we don't even manufacture in Ghana. And we all understand the issues with the importing materials to Ghana. Okay. So same thing with procurement. When you take on procurement as a contractor, you might end up even delaying a project that will put you in the line on fire when it comes to claims from a client. With an EPC that I experienced, in the end, the client had a whole lot of issues with the contractor. And, project was supposed to be completed. It hadn't been completed. Claims were put down. The contract was terminated. So with EPC, it seems you are like the consultant, you are the designer, you are the commissioning king, you are everything. That is it. But with the design and build, like I said, certain things the contractor doesn't need to worry about. So there will be probably a consulting team that takes on maybe detailed engineering responsibilities. The client or maybe another team might be responsible for your procurement and then things like that. I don't know if I answered your question. That's what I would say.
Okay, thank you very much, Nancy.
Hello, can I also come in?
Yes, please do.
Hello?
Yes, please do. You mention your name and then.
Yeah, this engineer Hardy Cantor on the line.
Okay.
Thank you very much for the presentation. As what a fellow engineer said regarding the EPC, I think I've also witnessed one as what the question was. With the EPC, most time to the client is also being given a tax as acquiring a permit, the necessary permit for the contractor who is coming to work on the project. So mostly it happens when those contract has been given out to a foreign company. So they also give out the permit side to the client to acquire all the necessary things for the ground to be clear for them to come and work on. So it sometimes go in that 50-50. That's what I've also experienced in one of my projects. But the contractor, he owns the engineering, the procurement, and then the construction, the main activity, and then bringing out of the design, and then the product or the equipment or the material to use. But the permit side there, it was being sourced by the client who have to make sure that all the necessary permit to implement the project comes on live. I think that's what I have. And then with the risks too, as a fellow engineer said, it's true that when the EPC, it has more risks as compared to the build and design and build. Because with the EPC, anything at all that you have to do, you are in charge of everything. So if you are not able to make your schedule very tight, in order to meet your timelines, you are likely to be out of time on the project. Thank you.
Engineer
Okay.
Hudu, thank you very much.
Can I come in, Engineer Nicholas?
Yeah,
So
Engineer Nicholas, please
if
do.
I want to add up, mostly for turnkey projects, the contractor delivered a full function of the project. But for the EPC, the client sometimes have an oversight on the responsibility on some aspects. So for the turnkey projects, you are doing everything to hand over whatever to the client. But for the EP, the client will have an oversight on certain aspects. So it can either your procurement aspect of it, the client may have an oversight of it. Not like the other that the building designer, you can easily do whatever he wants to do. But one thing too, we need to look at the contract administration is, for civil engineers, you need to look at your stakeholders' involvement. It's a very key thing that we need to do, because when there's a cost overrun, you really try to go back to them. So one of our involvement is the stakeholder involvement. We need to really understand whoever or the stakeholders involved in the contract of the project we are handling. Most of the times we just overlook at it, and then when issues cost overrun is happening, then we are struggling to allocate our stakeholders. So this is an addition I wanted to add it up to the slides you presented. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, Engineer. Any other contribution or question?
Yes,
good evening.
I can't find where
Engineer
to.
Manti.
Okay, you go on.
All right.
Yeah, hello.
Yes, I was okay, I heard somebody. This is Engineer Manti. I also wanted to add up, maybe you can shed more light on it. For EPCs and the design build, I think during the presentation you mentioned briefly the FEDEC contracts are able to govern such contracts. So for like the design and build, it has the yellow book which governs it, and then the EPC, the turnkey projects usually governed by the silver book. If you go in there, it may have some of the fine lines to give the more clarity and some differences. But generally, as Engineer Nancy and the other submissions made, for example, for the yellow book like this, the contractor carries the risk for both the design and then the execution, which is the design and build projects. And for EPC 10 key projects, the risks are much more larger because the contractor bears almost all the risks, including the design, the construction, and even cost overruns. So it has a bigger risk in the EPC 10 key. But as I mentioned earlier, the FEDEC book in the yellow and the silver, which governs these, may have the clear, the fine lines and brings more clarity to all the issues to it. Thank you.
Engineer Marty, thank you very much. Engineer Nancy, you wanted to say something?
I would like to say something. As civil engineers, sometimes I think maybe most of us don't like reading. There is something I even picked up on when you look at the local contractors and then the foreign contractors. Okay? So sometimes as local contractors, there is a contractor you bid. I don't know if it's a lack of confidence or something. You want to bid such that I don't know if there is no time to read what is required, but then you sort of put in a small cost. Maybe it's to make you competitive. But one thing I would advise is if we have any local contractors here, the best is always to do a very detailed analysis so that you don't find yourself wanting. And then if you don't like reading, don't take on any EPC or turnkey projects because it will be a very big mess. So maybe as an institution, maybe once in a while we should all sit together and then try to, train people, train the young ones, maybe find a way to even incorporate these things into the practical aspects into our university studies too. Because I've picked up on a few things where it's as if even the FIDIC book, most people don't read, even specifications on site. I don't know if it's just something I have observed, but maybe as professionals, whenever we find ourselves on projects, we should encourage, whether it's those that report to us, whatever, we should encourage them to read, and also we should share our knowledge. Maybe we should have more talks like these and then share knowledge, because reading is a problem amongst most civil engineers. Maybe not just civil engineers, it's just something I've picked up on. If I'm wrong, then apologies.
That's you are not wrong. I think we all share in that sense. That's why we are having some of these discussions, so that we can throw more light on those gray areas that we are not really paying much attention to. So thank you very much for your contribution. Please, somebody else wanted to say something.
Engineer, how
Yes.
do you can
Shall I go on?
Yes, come in.
This is Engineer Marion.
Okay, engineer.
I just want to share a little bit of what I have experienced in an EPC contract, because we recently completed one. The Tema Impakadan Railway project was an EPC. And although there's responsibility mainly for the contractor, and the contractor does everything, there was actually a consultant, which was us. To do with the design, what we did was we vetted the contractor's design. Although the contractor still takes responsibility for the whole of the design, still there was a consultant to vet. So at least if they see anything which may not work or which may not work well, they can make a contribution. And I think the contractor was actually happy to have that backup. There's something called the owner's engineer, because the owner does have responsibility and oversight, as someone mentioned. So they do take on an engineer in the form of a consultant. So that's just what I wanted to share. And then I think Engineer Nancy also mentioned if we could teach some of these things, train people in even the university. I studied outside. I studied in Liverpool, and for my course, in one term of the final year, we had what was called construction practice. That was one of the subjects, and it was taught to us by someone who had been in industry. So they pointed out a lot of these things to us. So maybe that's one way it can be incorporated into our curriculum here. That's it. I have one or two other things, but I'll wait and come up with those later. Maybe one will be relevant since we're talking about contracts. All these EPC and FIDIC and Silver Book, Red Book, all these contracts, they seem to be applied on major contracts. I'm wondering if with our very small contracts, like surfacing a road, not a trunk road, but maybe a distributor, if we have any contracts that we use, or what kind of contract do we use in those cases, like surfacing an estate road?
So, Engineer Marion, that's the question, right?
Yes. Do we use any contracts with our very small contracts, like surfacing an estate road?
I think with that one, the Green Book can be adapted. The FIDIC Green Book can be adapted. If
No, mostly they use lump sum. Mostly they use lump sum.
So we do have contracts for those.
Yes,
conditions of contract for them. Okay. Okay. Thanks.
All right, thank you, Engineer Marion. Any other comment?
Hello?
Yeah, hello.
Hello.
Yeah, this engineer Hadi on the line.
Okay, Engineer Hadi.
Yeah, thank you very much. I think Engineer Nancy said something about this the local contractors and then the foreign contractors. Mostly these our local contractors, they are not even working with professionals. They only get people to just bid it because they are sure of getting the project, and later they will not involve the professionals to guide them in executing the project, but rather go in for the roadside foremen and supervisors, just something to represent something in the process of implementation. And mostly, I also have a problem with our institutions because when they also come, let's say the highway, the feeder roads, when they come, they don't insist for the local contractor to work with professionals to ease their risks of executing the project. So they rather come in a way of them taking the job in doing it. So who checks who? At least the local contractor should have an expert. The Department of Feeder Roads and Urban Roads should also come in board. So when there's a mistake, I think there can be someone, one of them might see it. But where is the case that the contractor is not having an expert, he rather hire someone who have no expertise in those projects, but later tell the other department that, oh, can you kind of cross-check what my guy is doing? He's doing nothing. He has said I should mark himself. What is he going to mark? So I think want to know it. It will even bring more. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, Engineer Hadi.
Hello.
Hello.
Yeah, hello.
Yes, this Engineer Chemenya Michael. I just want to whether I have to put my colleague who just finished contributing in a way that you did mention about highways and urban roads. And the truth is that highways and urban roads don't supervise projects. Every government project, there is a consultant who has the sole responsibility of ensuring that the contractor has these professionals, as you are saying. And with your submission about contractors not having professionals on the ground, that is an allegation. So we cannot use that in making our submissions. So if we want to use it, then we need to come with facts. I just want to put that in right. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, so
I
I
have
think
a
the right
comment.
word has been some local contractors, but not
Okay.
to generalize.
So,
Yeah, let's progress.
yeah. Okay. Please, as Engineer Nancy said, that
Yes.
we engineers even need to read.
Uh,
You see, so reading, we are all studying about the contract agreement administration. So being an engineer, as one of our brothers being a reference that before you will bid for a project or tender for a project, there are criteria you follow. There are contract agreements and specifications that all these institutions are having. You take your time to read through. And that is our civil engineering. Your role is based on your position that you have been assigned. You need to read all these things in order to educate the contractor. We all know the system we have, whereby somebody may not even have the construction idea, but he has been given a project. The person runs to you. How do you get it? How do you even term the contract nature? How do you see it as a lump sum? Do you see it as a fixed contract, or you see it as design and board? What is your advice? Do you read the specifications? So these are the things we need to know as engineers, so that when they come to us, we try to educate, because one way or the other, they are using your name on their company profile for the project. And then you are one way or the other also engage in aspects to spearheaded the project for them. So what are you engineer looking at? And I think this is what the contract administration is all telling us about. We need to prepare ourselves, know the contract, the in and out of the contract. So we should look at those things and then advise and change the system as an engineer. You may not change totally, but your aspect may be credited. And it will also do away with the fake ones in the system. Thank you.
Engineer,
Hello.
thank you. Yeah, hello.
Hello, I think my hand has been up for a while, but I didn't know what is calling me, so I'm just jumping into it.
Please do, please do.
Okay, so my name is Engineer Jean Baptista. So I want to attack this from 2 points. So from the point of training young engineers in contract management, and then the contractors' point of view. So I'm on the council of the Ghana Consulting Engineers Association. So especially in our last administration, what we try to do is we try to get a lot of partner contractors. So we sold the idea of contract management and understanding the documentation for contract management to contractors. So a lot of contractors that we work with, that we know, we told them about. So GCA is a member of FIDIC. So we told them about the FIDIC contracts, the FIDIC books, what you need to know, what you need to do. And we made them feel part of us. So when we are going for our conferences, we extend invites to them. They some tag along. They go to see where the contracts are drafted, what exactly is in the contract, and then they come to us, and then we shed more light on stuff like that. So that is for the contractor's point of view. Bodies like us, like the GHIE, even in our own consulting firms, we come across contractors, we work with contractors. We need to let them know what is out there. We need to let them know how they can know what is out there and how they can better the understanding of the things that they use. Okay, so that is for the contractor's point of view. And then for the consulting engineer or the engineer's point of view, like if you go to a lot of our firms, you would realize that it is the QSs who use the contracts a lot. We do our designs, we do our numbers, and then we give to them the price, then they go and sit down and then they draft the contract and stuff like that. I think we need to let our young engineers, like from the onset, it's not just about mathematics, it's not just about drawing lines and stuff. We need to let them know what it is we use to what guide our works. We need to let them know what contracts are right from the start, and then we need to let the QSs expand their share their knowledge, because they use the contracts more often than us. So we need to work in tandem with them. We need to let our young engineers know from the onset that contract management is also important, not just drawing lines. Okay, yeah, thank you very much.
All right, thank you very much, Engineer Baptista. Engineer Rudolph, your hand has been up.
Yes, thank you so much for the opportunity. I actually enjoyed the session so much, and I just want to take a slight bite to what Engineer Canton Hardy spoke about. This is a noble institution, and the point he raised that some contractors, local contractors, don't use certified engineers or site supervisors for projects is legitimate and true. If the institution can probably research on that and make a case out of it. Day in, day out, we've been seeing it on the news that the engineers, and when they say engineers, it cuts across, it affects all of us. Engineers are not doing their due diligence on the roads or on the construction industry, and it comes to affect all of us. One thing I also want to look at is the effect of politics in the engineering industry or the construction industry. Can the institution look at it and see how best we can kind of like, should I say, sieve and make sure that no matter what the political party or the ruling party is in power, we still make sure that all other construction activities that is going on in the country meets the standards, so they don't drag us into the mud. That is just my concern I want to raise here. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Engineer. Engineer Michael Jackson, your hand is up.
Yes, In fact, I'm enjoying this discussion. It was my question that paved way for all these insightful comments from our fellow colleagues. I have another question which I think should be of concern to all of us. When it comes to these types of contracts, definitely we all find ourselves with different institutions. Either we are with the client that is preparing the contract to get a contractor, or we are with a contractor who is coming to bid for a contract, or we are with a consultant who coming for the client. Now, wherever we find ourselves, definitely we'll make an input. That is if we are asked to make inputs on these kinds of contracts going forward. If we are on the side of the client, I believe we should be informed enough to tell which kind of contract we should go for. For instance, if there's a project coming up, we should be able to advise our people that this project, we should either use a turnkey, we should go for design build, we should go for cost price, we should go for unit price. The same way, if we find ourselves on the execution part as a contractor, we should be able to know which contract or which project we should accept to take as turnkey, which one we should take as the unit price or the design build, whichever one we find ourselves comfortable, we should be able to tell. However, if we don't have that information to know which one would be okay for us in terms of risk and responsibilities, then we may even be going for contract that at the end of the day will not be good for us. My question here is how, wherever we find ourselves, which one or how do we tell, example for the contractor, which project should we go if the client wants us to take it as maybe a turnkey or a design build? How do we tell that this one will be in favor, will be in my favor, or how do I even price for it to be in my favor? And if we are on the client side, how do I advise our people to see that this project, we should go in with this type of contract? I don't know if you are getting my question. So that if we all find ourselves with any institution, be it the contractor or the client or even the consultant, we know that anytime we are going or we are part of a project, that type of project, we would come out of the project successfully and be happy, rather than fighting at the end of the project with a lot of risk and responsibilities where we don't know who is going to handle what. I hope you understand my question. So as practitioners, how do we know, or how do we even advise our people that go for this project, or this project, it will be to the benefit of myself and the people that are on it? We should be able to tell, or we should be able to advise people who are going for each contract type that this one will be a project that would be okay for all of us. When the other engineers were speaking, I mean, they've experienced projects where at the end of the day, there were lots of fights, who should do what and who should do. I believe if the information had been okay from the beginning, some of these things would have been solved even before the start of the project. So that is my question for the floor.
Okay, Engineer Ebenezer Ofe, I think your hand is up.
Okay, thank you, engineers, for the contribution. Listening from all the insightful contributions is really interesting. Just to add up and also to give an answer or response to engineer who asked the question. I believe almost everything that we've said is things that are really going on in the industry. Starting from where the contract administration and contract management is being not inculcated in the civil engineering curricula, whereby mostly when civil engineers graduate or probably come out from the institution or academia and in the industry, sometimes they struggle to team up or collaborate or align with our fellow professionals. And I think one thing we are not considering is mostly, and it's a recommendation that the institution should take on, that they should recommend or probably consult with GTech in ensuring that, or even the universities, ensuring that most of the engineering programs that work together. It's like engineering program is a teamwork. So we are almost getting to the end of or the final year of every program. Almost every graduate should probably within the engineering circular, which works together, like the MEC, the electrical, the civil engineering, the KWS, all those professional units should probably come in and come up with a project, like a practicable project, which each team can appreciate the role that they will be playing and how we will be liaising with each other. So that will, that will even help us when we are even in the practice and having challenges with our fellow professionals, and even when we are having such a rigid system where sometimes procurement routes are kind of dubious in a way, and politicians are routing or let's say businesses are routing the industry. It makes it quite difficult and cumbersome. But I think if such barrier or something like that is created even from the academic route, when we the professionals will stand in a fight with that, and I think we could have defeated such a narrative. But here is the case that we don't have such going on. So and also to come in with the EPC contracts, we work with mostly currently our project that we're doing, we are constructing a boiler project for a client in Central Africa, and we are the client engineer that's doing the design and build. But we use the silver book, which was recommended by the main EPC contractor, which is the OEM. And the OEM, we've been working with the OEM. So they recommended us, and we are doing the design to suit the OEM system. And in that case, all those responsibilities and roles has been clearly defined for each party, for procurement and also engineering and construction. So in this case, we are doing the ESC. And it's clearly stated, and client knows who to liaise with, who to align with, and how we handle things. That's another aspect. And also in Ghana here, what we do sometimes is also we do EPC and like strictly EPC. But what helps us is we're able to aggregate the roles as explained in the FEDE contracts with the engineering team, the procurement team, and also the contracting team, irrespective of you being the main EPC contractor. So that is another clarity on that. And just to answer with a question on how we can solve, I think I've already given that narrative from the beginning. Well, how we are appreciating the fact of contract administration and management as civil engineers, I believe we still know ourselves, and we still know other professional bodies who are really well endowed, especially the KWS units, the GHIS. So we can liaise and we know them. Where we're having challenges with understanding the contract or advising a contractor, we easily have to consult our KWS units. Fast track and also read, as we've already talked about, and fast track things, and also help to educate our own contractors or employers. And if in selecting such contract types, I think it's a learning curve that we are going by. But those who have been in the industry know how to handle some of these things. It's about relationship with the KWS unit or some of the contract units or the administrative or the contracts unit, let me say contract unit, which in a way will help us appreciate the contract and the responsibilities of our employer or contractor, and easily help to do the critical feasibility of the project and the cost analysis that the project will bring. Then that will help us in like clarify stuff with our employer. So thank you.
Thank you very much. Engineer Dazi, your hand is up.
Thank you very much for the insightful presentation. Let me try answering Jackson's answer as to what type of contract one has to go into. In the FedEx suite, as you've already discussed, you have the red book, you have the yellow book, you have the silver book, you have the green book. Each of them has its purpose and the type of contract that it's prescribed. Mostly and these things are for you to choose a particular book or contract, which mostly depends on the scope that you are working on. If you'll be able to define your scope such that you know exactly what you are doing, and the quantities and everything can be described perfectly, then it's good and better for you to go for the red book, which is the hard measured work. In this wise, you, the client, maybe you have your engineer who does the design and everything and comes out with specification, and then the scope is well defined. So you pay the contractor according to the work done. So you have all your quantities and you can easily go for the red book. And most of the contracts that are done in Ghana here are based on the red book. That's the hard measured work. But if your scope is said that it's not clear to you, you only think of the end results, performance. But as to what to put together to get you to that point is not clear to you, then you as a client will be in a better position to go for EPC contract, where you tax the supplier or the vendor. Somebody mentioned the OEM, that's the original manufacturing company, or the, because they have the experience and expertise to turn around what your vision is to be able to get to what you want at the end of the day. So you know your performance. At the end of the day, I want to have this thing. How do I go about it? And they'll be able, since they have the experience and the expertise, they'll be able to come out. So you would then have a high level of your employer's requirements given to them. And upon that, they can build on that to be able to bring you the product that will meet your requirements at the end of the day. And that one, you see that there's a high risk in that. So you then put the risk on the contractor, making sure that engineering, procurement, construction, everything is on him. On the plant or design and build contract, more or less, that one, the responsibility or the risk can be shared between the contractor, and the client also takes some portion of the risk. And these two will go with a lump sum contract. In that, because you don't actually know, or you cannot prescribe or describe your scope as, or define your scope as clear as possible, then you must, or you will pay a premium for what is being done by the other side. So depending on how the scope is defined, you'll be able to choose the correct contract to go with, so that you will not be shorting at the end of the day. This little that I can say about what do you call it, how to choose a particular book or a particular contract. If your scope is well defined, it is good for you to go for the red book. But if your specification and the scope is said that it's not well defined, and you need an expertise to work on that, then it's good to go for the EPC. And that's where normally you see that those contracts is normally single source, because you don't have enough people who do such work or who have the expertise to do such work. especially when you come into the energy sector, in the oil sector. Most of the items, they are capital intensive, one, and you need high level of expertise to also deliver those projects. It will be easier for you to go for those particular ones. This is what I can say about choosing a particular type of contract. Thank you very much. Hello.
Engineer, thank you. Thank you. I heard your submission. Thank you very much. Very insightful. Thank you. Engineer Isaac Frimpong, are you there? Engineer Lode?
Yes, I'm here.
I think Isaac's,
I
I
wanted
don't
to
know
ask
whether.
one question. I wanted to ask one question. Can I go ahead?
Okay, engineer, go ahead. I think Isaac cannot hear us. That's why I was calling you.
Okay.
Hello?
Engineer, you can go ahead, please.
Yes. In our various contracts that we do, we have various documentation of specifications. We could have the FIDIC book, we could have the standard specifications, special specifications, particular conditions of contract. We have drawings and we have BOQ, the bill. Hello? Yes. In time of conflict, in times of misunderstanding, can we have somebody to explain to us the hierarchy of precedence of all this documentation? Which one stands first? Which one will proceed in making a decision?
Can I answer that?
Yes, please.
Yes. So most times, like has been said, you have the FIDIC book. There are other things that can be used. It's always that if it's a FIDIC run project, you would always go back to it. So there are things related to what can be, it spells out what is a delay, what is a force majeure, how do we deal with delays related to rainfall, what are issues related to payment. So you would always go back to that book. That served as your specification for tendering. Have I answered the question? So that's why whatever the issue is, you would find your answer in there. If it had to do with payment, you would find it in there. If it had to do with a delay in the submission of something, you would find it in there. If it had to do with what happens to you when you have not finished your work at a certain time, you find it in there. So that is the first place to start. Go to your specification. It could be the FIDIC books. Thanks. Yes.
Yeah, can I add something?
Yeah, Dr. Ampedu, please go ahead.
Yeah, so in addition to what Lady just said, if you take the contract, the hierarchy is always enumerated. The order of precedence is always enumerated in the contract. So you should always, as I said, go back to the contract. I think the problem, most of the interactions I'm hearing, what I'm gathering is that most of us are not reading. In fact, just as a Christian reads his Bible, the civil engineer whose job is administering a lot of contracts should always be reading the contract documents. In fact, even if you read cover to cover, it's fine. Because any issue that arises, the answer is in there. But if you don't read any issue that comes, you think it's a big issue. But the contract documents, especially the conditions of contract, has taken, a lot of issues that has happened over the years into consideration to formulate the documents. And so you have to go back to read, just as the pastor will always refer to the Bible. Thank you.
Architect Freeman, you can go ahead. Your hand has been up for some time.
Hello, my engineering fellows. Hello. Can you hear me?
Yes, you can hear you, architect.
Thank you very much. It is a great honor for an architect to be part of this discussion when our very key personalities in ensuring stability of our projects are concerned. Let me just throw in one or two issues when it comes to determination of contracts, the type of contracts we use for which type of project. Already, the type of contract is not new to us. We are already aware the type of contract we should choose. Now, the economic challenges in going back to research and all has made it very difficult for some of us to spend a little bit more time in doing the mental work of determining which contract to go for. I happen to be on the Urology and Nephrology Center of Excellence, which was using the Silver Book, which is a EPC contract under the Ministry of Health. In that context, we were employed by the employer with a clear definition of the employer's requirement, which was drafted, detailed, and handed over to the government. Okay, government. Was to because of the in the hospital infrastructure development. So it became a kind of a sole source, and the funding was coming from Austria. So in that context, being knowledgeable enough in the context of hospital infrastructure development, the client or our employer will have to now assemble a reflection of key team, which is definitely also on the team of the contractor. That is, you have to have the architect on board, you have to have a project manager on board, you have to have the QS on board on the side of the employer, because the employer assembled a team of consultants to determine the need of or the brief for the development of the Urology and Nephrology Center of Excellence, which is supposed to provide a top-notch urological services to the West African sub-region. So even though they have been built, the number that it run through the execution of the contract means that the EPC contract then is of a higher risk to the contractor. So it higher risk to the contractor. The contractor provides higher rates for its cost. For instance, per square meter, then 500 euros, which we view it as very outrageous and very expensive. But in the context of the risk levels that the contractor is going to bear, we accepted it was accepted by the ministry for us to execute. Now, the employer's team, which is us, to ensure that the facility that we are going to develop and supervise and monitor the contractor in executing and delivering a fit-for-purpose facility, addressing all the employer's requirements. And that is where you, the consultant, the architect is there, the QS is there to make sure that very well, the costs that have been allocated to the development of Block A is being managed and is being executed, and also monitoring payment disbursements as per the conditions of the contract. At a point, the loan availability period was expiring. And the contractor wanted, this is a live case scenario that I'm sharing so that we can really understand why we need to spend more time to determine the type of contract we go for. This is a case where the loan availability period for the project was expiring. Then the contractor came that, look, we want you to release the rest of the money for us. Other than that, it will be difficult for us to access it. And we on the side representing the Ministry of Health said no, because there are milestones defined for you to achieve before we release the payment. Even though the contract provides that the payment schedules are not tied to physical progress, the financial payments, that's the schedule of payment, is not tied to physical. So you, the consultant representing the employer, you have a singular responsibility in ensuring that the contract but delivers exactly what you are expecting. Experience and communication skills. We wrote calling for extra some also a EPC contract, which is a high level risk, even though track everything. We are all aware of the current dispensation of the AI introduced. We can take advantage of the AI. The AI as the of all the type of feeding contracts. All you need is how to all you said a project, determine which type of contract I go for. Please prompt the AI as a personal assistant, as a project manager with experience of about 15 years, determine it as a personality and program it that, look, I've been issued a brief by the architect representing the employer's interests. And these are the expectations at the initial stages. First of all, the employer has given me a limit of an amount to work with to deliver this or finish. What do you advise contract among the feeding type of contract should I go for? Immediately, it will give you the options. Then you further prompt it again that what are the pros and cons of the ones you have given and rate it. You have to rate it over 10 so that when after the AI has rated the options over 10 and the highest is 8 over 10, you pick the particular one that is rated 8 over 10. Then you further prompt the AI that, yes, now we are agreeing on this. What are the expectations? What are the downsides of it? What are the shortfall of the ones we have chosen so that we can address the issue from onset? Communication is always very important, to prompt communications. And I believe that as engineers, as built environment professionals, in determining our structure, it's always condition precedents that the contract defines. So I would like to advise that going forward, we shouldn't even struggle the more because everything we're doing is database. Have to now educate ourselves, though we don't read. AI is there to provide a profession within which you are operating and be able to prompt the AI to give you the expectations. Like we say, the garbage in garbage. I'll leave it on this. And I've experienced so far with the execution of UC contracts. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Architect Freeman. I think that has been very, very insightful. Engineer Steve, I think you'll be the last person to talk and then we bring the discussion to a close.
Okay, hello, thank you. Please, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Oh, okay. So the little thing I would like to add, especially in response to the question on hierarchy of documents, is site minutes or meeting minutes. They are also very key in administering a contract. And my experience has been that sometimes what is even in the contract is sometimes changed in the course of execution of the project. And at site meetings between the client and the contractor, certain decisions are reached. And then once the contractor and the client sign to the minutes, they become binding. So I think that meeting minutes are also key and probably may hold stronger than certain provisions in the contract if there are any differences. So that's just what I wanted to add. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Engineer Steve. I'd like to thank all of us for our time and our dedication and for all the inputs. I believe it's been very insightful and it's been an eye-opener for most of us. And I believe we've all learned a lesson or two from this discussion. I think the time this time around has been favorable. The last meeting or discussion we had only about 19 of us representing, but today we even had a maximum of, I think, 128. Yeah. So going forward, I think we will have to use the 7 o'clock time rather than the 5 o'clock, which I think will be suitable.
Can we have a part 2 continuation of this? I don't think we discussed everything. So maybe we can have a part 2 where we continue with the questions and the answers and all. I don't know. That's the way I feel.
I agree to
The
that.
majority of us are in favor of that. I think we can do that.
I agree to that. Let's have part 2.
And I recommend that we can also get, let's say, a rep from the KOS unit to also probably also like guide us to also answer like continue with exposure and their experience levels and the contract conditions more.
Okay. And I think we will have to do a part 2 next month, and then so that at least we can all continue on the learning curve. So thank you all for the participation and have a lovely evening and then a lovely weekend. That's all. We'll meet again. Thank you very much.
Thank you, and the same to you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Please kindly let us get the